In the great game of life, there are invisible laws that move silently beneath the surface of every human experience. These laws do not bend for emotion, nor do they sway under fear. They answer to faith, to vision, and to the clear, unwavering word. Money, power, respect, love, and friends are not scattered gifts of chance. They are divine ideas waiting to be claimed by the one who dares to speak their rightful name. Each of these elements is a spiritual coin, minted in the unseen realm long before it appears in the visible. Money is not merely paper or number. It is circulation, the living breath of abundance that flows like a river to the one who trusts its current. Those who see money as a friend rather than a foe walk with quiet assurance, for they know that wealth is a servant, not a master. The universe responds to certainty, and when the soul declares all that is mine by divine right now flows to me in perfect order, doors swing open that once seemed sealed shut. Power is not the shout of dominance, but the quiet strength that stands rooted in truth. It is the force of inner authority that commands without raising its voice. True power is born not from grasping, but from alignment, when thought, word, and faith move as one. The person who understands power does not chase, they magnetize. They hold their vision high, and the world rearranges itself to meet their decree. Respect is the mirror the world holds up to the individual who respects their own worth. When one walks in the dignity of their divine identity, they no longer beg for recognition, it is given. Respect is not taken by force, it is earned through the quiet radiance of self-knowing. A mind anchored in purpose commands reverence, not through demand, but through presence. Love, the greatest of all currencies, is the golden thread weaving all things into harmony. It is not bound by conditions, nor does it shrink when met with fear. Love is the great harmonizer, the power that melts resistance, dissolves walls, and heals what once seemed broken. Where love leads, abundance follows, for love is the foundation upon which every true blessing stands. Friends are divine appointments, reflections of the inner vibration one carries. True companions are not found through striving, but through resonance. When the heart stands open and unafraid, it attracts those who walk in the same light. Friends are treasures, not because they fill a void, but because they mirror the wealth already living within. Money, power, respect, love, friends, each is a key, but together they unlock a gate far greater than any single dream. They are not separate pursuits, but facets of one radiant truth, that life gives in full measure to the one who claims it boldly, speaks with faith, and moves with unwavering certainty. The law answers every word, every thought, every belief, never with delay, but with precision. Money flows to faith, not fear. This is a law as certain and precise as the turning of the stars. Money is not a lifeless object, but a living current, and like any current, it seeks the path of least resistance. Faith is that open path, clear, steady, and receptive, while fear is the boulder that blocks the stream. When the mind and heart are filled with doubt, anxiety, or clutching, the current of supply is disrupted. When faith stands firm, the river flows with ease. Money has no will of its own. It follows the vibration of the one who calls it forth. When a soul walks in faith, money becomes a faithful servant, arriving not in trickles but in tides, drawn by the magnetic certainty of an unwavering spirit. The one who trusts in divine supply does not chase, for they know what belongs to them comes in perfect timing. Faith is the invisible cord that tugs at the unseen storehouse of abundance. A mind anchored in faith speaks the word and then releases it, not looking to the world for signs of lack, but to the inner knowing that everything needed is already prepared. Fear clings, but faith commands. Fear begs, but faith declares. The one who trusts does not measure their worth by the coins in their hand, for they understand the true bank lies in the unseen. They may walk with empty pockets, but their spirit carries the certainty of overflowing accounts. They may stand at the edge of need, but their soul whispers, "It is done," and the universe rushes to obey. Fear speaks in the language of scarcity. It repeats old stories, rehearses losses, and clings to limitations as though they were laws carved in stone. But they are only shadows, illusions that vanish in the presence of faith. When one believes lack is real, they feed the shadow. They tighten their grip, they hoard, they hesitate, and the current of money, like a bird sensing a storm, flies elsewhere. Money does not settle where it is not trusted. It does not linger in the hands of the one who fears losing it. But faith opens wide the gate, saying, "There is always more." And in that fearless declaration, the flow finds a home. Money answers to vibration, not to desperate effort. 1,000 labors rooted in fear will not yield what a single word spoken in faith can bring. When one believes deeply in their divine supply, they no longer ask, "Will it come?" They speak as though it is already here. They walk as though their steps are guided. They release the grip of fear and hold their hands open, knowing that open hands are ready to receive. Faith is the magnet. Fear is the repellent. Faith expands, fear contracts. In the silent spaces of the heart, these forces battle, and money listens not to the noise of words, but to the quiet pulse of belief. Many imagine money as power, but money itself is neutral. It becomes power in the hands of the faithful because faith directs it, multiplies it, and aligns it with purpose. In the hands of fear, money becomes fleeting, unstable, always just out of reach. Faith sees opportunity in the unseen. Fear sees obstacles in the visible. Faith plants seeds knowing harvest is inevitable. Fear digs up the ground to check if anything is growing. Faith invests, not recklessly, but with the quiet assurance that the universe is an abundant field. It trusts timing, trusts flow, trusts that what is sown will return multiplied. Fear counts every seed and worries there will not be enough for tomorrow. Faith does not require evidence, it creates it. Those who walk by faith in their financial life often find doors swinging open that logic could not explain. Opportunities arise, resources align, and ideas blossom as if they had been waiting in silence for the soul to believe. Fear closes doors before they appear. It whispers, "Not for you," and the soul, believing the lie, never knocks. Faith knows lack is a mirage, a shadow cast by doubt. It does not wait for proof. It moves first and the world follows. Money is a servant that recognizes confidence, not arrogance, not greed, but the calm certainty of one who knows their divine right to supply. When one stands in that inner authority, they no longer approach money as a beggar at a gate, but as the rightful heir to a vast estate. They do not plead with the world for scraps. They speak to the unseen as a commander issuing orders. Faith is not noise. It is stillness that carries weight. It is the quiet yes that the universe recognizes as law. Fear is restless. It worries over every bill, clutches at every coin, calculates endlessly, and builds prisons of limitation with its own hands. It makes the world small, opportunities scarce, and the future a place of looming lack. Faith, by contrast, makes the world wide. It sees streams of income where fear sees deserts. It recognizes that money flows through people, places, ideas, and circumstances, not because they are special, but because the law of abundance knows no shortage. Faith invites those streams in. Fear builds dams to keep them out. Every thought held in faith plants a seed in the unseen garden of supply. Each declaration spoken with conviction waters that seed. Each act of gratitude acts as sunlight. Fear, on the other hand, uproots, dries, and chokes the sprout before it blooms. Faith gives time for roots to deepen. It does not panic when results are not instant, for it knows the law is at work, even when nothing seems to move. Fear demands proof at once and curses the soil when it sees only bare earth. But faith stands still and knows. When money is approached with faith, it does not need to be chased, it is drawn. People feel it, opportunities recognize it, and circumstances shape themselves to meet it. Faith moves quietly, like a current beneath the surface, gathering unseen forces into visible form. It does not concern itself with how or when, only with the unwavering knowing that it shall be. The outer world reflects the inner stance. If fear rules the heart, scarcity rules the world around. If faith sits on the throne, abundance bows before it. The mind trained in faith begins to see money as a flowing friend, never an enemy, never a tyrant. It understands that wealth is not taken, it is allowed. It is not forced, it is welcomed. It does not run from the faithful, it runs to them. Faith does not shrink in the face of bills, debts, or empty accounts. It looks at the mountain and declares it full. It looks at the mountain and declares it moved. It does not wait for the world to agree. It speaks first, and the world, being obedient to law, rearranges itself in answer. Fear trembles before obstacles. Faith walks through them as if they were smoke. Money is a reflection, a mirror of the inner state. If fear reigns, the reflection is scarcity. If faith reigns, the reflection is plenty. The shift is never in the outer world first, it is always born within. A fearful mind chases, a faithful mind attracts. A fearful hand clings, a faithful hand receives. A fearful word doubts, a faithful word creates. Money flows to faith, not fear, because faith is the open door and money is always searching for an open way. To power is quiet alignment. Power is not in the loudness of a voice or the weight of a fist. It is in the stillness that does not waver. Real power does not rush, plead, or explain itself. It stands, anchored and unshakable, like a tree that knows its roots reach deeper than any passing storm. Alignment is the meeting point between the inner world and the outer world, where thought, word, and belief flow in one straight current. It is the silent agreement between what is felt within and what is declared without. When that agreement is pure and unwavering, power rises, not as a surge of force, but as a calm, steady tide that bends reality to match its rhythm. The world often confuses noise with strength. It celebrates the loud, the visible, the forceful. But real power has no need to prove itself. It does not demand attention, it commands it through presence alone. When a soul stands in quiet alignment, it becomes a magnet. People feel it before a word is spoken. Opportunities appear as if drawn by invisible threads. The world rearranges itself around the silent authority of one who is inwardly sure. The loud may shout to be heard, but the aligned are already felt. Alignment begins in the inner chamber of thought. When the mind, the heart, and the spirit speak the same language, they generate a frequency that does not falter. If the mind says one thing, the heart another, and the spirit remains uncertain, power leaks away through the cracks. But when thought says, I am, the heart beats in agreement, and the spirit stands without doubt. Reality bends to match that note. True power does not depend on external proof. It moves from inward certainty. It does not ask the world to believe first. It believes, and the world has no choice but to follow. There is a difference between control and power. Control is grasping, clutching, forcing things to fit. Power is ease, a soft yet unyielding current. Control is rooted in fear, always needing to maintain a grip, always watching for loss. Power trusts alignment, knowing that what is aligned within cannot be taken without. Control builds walls, power opens gates. Control demands obedience, power inspires it. Control burns energy, power generates it. Quiet alignment is not passivity, it is not standing still out of fear of movement. It is movement in precision, like the silent orbit of stars, perfectly set, needing no applause, fearing no collapse. When the inner self is aligned, decisions flow without strain. There is no overthinking, no trembling, no desperate search for signs. The aligned soul moves as if the way is already paved, because in truth, it is. Power does not come from struggle, it comes from knowing. True power is the quiet certainty that what is meant will unfold. It does not rush to grab what belongs to it because it knows nothing can take it away. It does not bend under pressure because pressure cannot touch a foundation that is rooted in inner alignment. It does not swing wildly with every change of the wind because its roots are deeper than the storm's reach. It remains steady, and in that steadiness, the world feels its weight. The aligned mind does not need to convince anyone. It does not need to argue for its worth or shout its vision into the void. Its silence speaks louder than noise. It is like a tuning fork that vibrates so clearly that everything around it must either fall into harmony or move away. Power does not chase harmony. It becomes it, and everything else adjusts. When a soul is in quiet alignment, their words carry weight. A whisper becomes stronger than a shout. A single action, taken from that still center, creates waves wider than 1,000 scattered movements. Power multiplies itself through precision. Where the fearful scatter their energy in every direction, the aligned direct it like a beam of light. Sharp, unwavering, unstoppable. Alignment requires inner honesty. Power cannot stand on a divided foundation. One cannot speak abundance while believing in lack. One cannot declare love while harboring fear. One cannot affirm strength while feeding doubt. The universe responds not to the words on the tongue, but to the tone beneath them. Alignment is when there is no contradiction between the spoken word and the silent vibration. When the inner and outer match, the command is clean, and power obeys. Quiet power does not compare itself to others. It does not measure its worth by how loud or visible others may seem. A lighthouse does not race ships, it stands, and by standing it guides. The aligned soul is the lighthouse, unmoved by the waves. Its purpose is not to shout at the storm, but to hold its light steady, knowing that the world around it will find its course by that unwavering glow. True power comes from knowing one's source. It does not beg the world for validation. It does not depend on approval, applause, or permission. It does not require circumstance to be favorable before it moves. It is born from the quiet inner declaration, I am aligned. That declaration does not falter because it is not built on external ground. It stands on something deeper, something untouched by change. When alignment is complete, even silence speaks. The body language shifts, the eyes carry calm, the energy fills the room like an invisible field. It does not need armor, because nothing outside can pierce what is whole within. The aligned do not seek to overpower, they simply are power. They do not crush obstacles, they walk through them as if they are made of mist. Quiet power has patience. It does not panic in delay, nor does it shatter in uncertainty. It understands that the river does not question its own course. It flows, bends when needed, but always reaches the sea. Alignment does not crumble when others misunderstand. It does not tremble when appearances suggest lack. It stands, steady and silent, knowing that appearances are shadows that fade under the weight of true alignment. True power listens more than it speaks. It feels more than it reacts. It observes the storm without being pulled into its winds. It knows when to move and when to wait. It understands that movement without alignment is noise, and movement from alignment is impact. It trusts its timing. It trusts its rhythm. It trusts its silence. The aligned soul is not restless. It does not live in a hurry. It knows that what is aligned with it will come in perfect order. Power does not need to fight for space. It simply takes its place, and the world adjusts. Quiet alignment is not visible to all, but it is felt by all. It carries a gravity that does not need to speak its name. Power grows in silence. It does not boast about itself. It does not need to announce its presence. It does not collapse when ignored or doubted, because its strength does not depend on being seen. It is like the root of the mountain, unseen, but holding everything in place. When thought, word, and belief become one, the soul becomes unshakable. There is no hesitation, no fracture, no wasted motion. It does not fear the future because it stands aligned in the now. It does not replay the past because its anchor is deeper than memory. Its gaze is steady, its breath calm, its will clear. And in that stillness, the world moves. Respect mirrors self-worth. It is reflected back from the silent image a person holds of themselves. The way the world responds is a direct echo of the way the soul stands in its own presence. When someone knows their worth, not as a concept but as an unshakable truth, the universe bends its knee to that certainty. The tone of respect begins within, in the quiet chambers of thought where identity is formed. No amount of external praise can build it if the inner foundation is weak. No amount of external rejection can shatter it if the foundation is firm. Respect is not requested, it is recognized. Self-worth is not arrogance, nor does it demand attention. It is quiet dignity, the sense of standing tall without needing to look down on anyone else. It does not shrink to make others comfortable, and it does not rise to prove a point. It simply is. A person who holds their worth with ease walks into a room differently. Their presence speaks before their words do. People feel it, not because it is loud, but because it is steady. Respect flows to what is steady, to what is sure of itself, to what carries no doubt in its own value. When self-worth is weak, the world mirrors that weakness. It gives what it is told to give, and when the soul whispers uncertainty, the world responds with disregard. People overlook, dismiss, interrupt, and undervalue what has not claimed its own value. This is not cruelty from the outside, but reflection from the inside. Life has no choice but to reflect the image held within. The moment a person stops asking to be seen and begins seeing themselves fully, everything changes. The tone of conversations shifts. The way people look, speak, and react adjusts, without anyone needing to demand it. True self-worth does not come from titles, possessions, or achievements. Those can decorate the outside, but they cannot sustain the weight of respect. The kind of worth that draws genuine respect comes from an inner knowing that cannot be earned or taken. It is already present, waiting to be claimed. When one stops tying their worth to what they do and begins to anchor it in who they are, the ground beneath their feet becomes firm. They no longer bend in every storm, nor do they shrink under the weight of disapproval. Respect flows naturally to those who do not need permission to exist in their full stature. Respect is not forced. A forced demand for respect always carries a vibration of insecurity beneath it. It is an attempt to pull from the outside what has not been built on the inside. True respect is silent. It needs no announcement, no loud assertion, no constant proving. It lives in posture, in gaze, in stillness. People can sense when someone has found their center. They may not always like it, but they cannot ignore it. The mirror of respect begins with the words spoken to oneself. The mind is a room, and the voice inside that room is the architect of worth. If the inner voice speaks with doubt, criticism, and fear, the structure built is fragile. The world will press against it and it will bend. But when the inner voice speaks with strength, grace, and quiet authority, the structure stands. Self-respect is not given to oneself only when everything is perfect. It is held even in imperfection, because worth is not earned by being flawless. It is inherent, and the soul that remembers this stands taller, even in the valley. Respect from others often arrives after self-respect has been fully seated. Those who respect themselves set unspoken boundaries without needing to build walls. They do not allow disrespect to linger, not through anger, but through certainty. They do not need to shout, "I deserve more." They simply live as if they already do, and the world, being a mirror, adjusts its reflection. Many chase external validation, hoping that if others respect them enough, they will finally believe in themselves. But that path is endless, because mirrors cannot reflect what does not exist. The inner respect must come first. When someone sees their worth clearly, they stop begging for scraps of acknowledgement. They stop twisting themselves into smaller shapes to fit places that cannot hold their full size. They no longer tolerate what once broke them. Their silence becomes stronger than any argument. Self-worth is not loud. It is calm, like the surface of still water that reflects everything without losing its own clarity. It allows others to approach, but it does not allow them to disturb the depths. When others bring noise, the stillness does not crumble, it holds, and in that holding, respect grows. Those who once overlooked are forced to see, not because anything was demanded, but because the quiet strength leaves no room for dismissal. The energy of self-worth can be felt in the smallest gestures. The way someone stands, the way they speak their name, the way they hold their silence. These are the marks of how deeply they value themselves. One person can say nothing and command more respect than another who fills the air with pleas. Because respect listens not to volume, but to vibration. A soul anchored in self-worth does not envy. It does not need to compare or compete. It does not see another's rise as its own fall. It knows worth is infinite, not a resource to be fought over. This freedom from comparison makes the present stronger, calmer, more magnetic. People respect what does not chase. They respect what does not bow to insecurity. Disrespect from others no longer wounds deeply when self-worth is intact. It may sting the surface, but it cannot pierce the core. The aligned soul knows the difference between another's opinion and its own truth. It listens without absorbing. It stands without defending. Respect from others becomes a reflection, not a requirement. The moment a person fully claims their worth, their environment responds. Those who cannot match that frequency often drift away, and those who can rise to meet it appear. The change is not forced. It is natural, like water finding its level. People who carry their worth are not surrounded by respect because they demand it, but because they embody it. Self-worth has no need to prove itself. It does not bargain to be valued. It does not perform to be chosen. It does not shrink in the presence of power or inflate in the presence of weakness. It stays the same, steady and whole. Respect mirrors this steadiness because it recognizes strength that does not waver. The world treats people according to the energy they carry more than the words they speak. If someone walks with quiet certainty, they are met with weight. If they walk with hidden apology, they are met with dismissal. This is not cruelty, it is law. Mirrors do not choose what to reflect, they only reflect. A life built on self-worth does not beg for respect. It receives it naturally. It no longer seeks external approval as oxygen, it breathes from within. The posture changes, the gaze sharpens, the words slow down, the silence deepens, and as this inner stance becomes steady, the reflection grows clearer. Respect mirrors self-worth because the world cannot offer what has not been claimed. It is not something one earns through endless proving, it is something one becomes. The inner image writes the script, and the outer world reads it. Those who carry their worth silently shape the way others treat them without lifting a finger. They do not shout their value, they embody it, and embodiment has more power than any demand could ever hold. Love harmonizes all things. It is the great force that dissolves resistance, heals fractures, melts fear, and draws what is scattered into unity. It moves without noise, yet it reshapes everything it touches. Love is not a fragile emotion that depends on circumstance. It is a power, steady and radiant, flowing beneath the surface of all creation. Where love moves, chaos loses its footing. What was broken begins to find its way back into alignment. Love is the law of balance, the rhythm beneath every heartbeat, the silent thread holding the tapestry of existence together. When love enters a space, conflict begins to loosen its grip, not because the problems vanish at once, but because love removes the weight of fear, and without fear, walls begin to fall. Love is not blind. It sees everything clearly and still chooses harmony over judgment. It does not ignore the wound, it heals it. It does not deny the fracture, it mends it. It is the force that does not push but draws. It gathers what has been scattered, softens what has grown rigid, and quiets what has been loud. Love is not weakness, it is the greatest strength, for nothing stands unmoved before it. Fear tries to control, anger tries to dominate, pride tries to divide, but love moves without needing to fight. It enters silently, like light seeping through the cracks of a closed room. Darkness has no argument against light, it simply fades. So too, resistance fades when love holds steady. It is not a battle won through struggle, but a victory claimed through presence. The soul that stands in love becomes a tuning fork, radiating harmony that affects everything nearby. People feel it, even without words. Situations shift, not through force, but through quiet realignment. Where others would use control, love uses ease. Where others build walls, love opens doors. Where others tighten their grip, love extends its hand. This is why love is the ultimate harmonizer. It does not scatter energy outward into balance. To love is to align with the highest rhythm of existence. The universe itself moves in love, for love is not merely sentiment. It is the original language of creation. Every blade of grass grows by it. Every star shines through it. Every breath carries it. When the human heart aligns with that rhythm, it stops fighting against the current and begins to flow with it. And in that flow, what was tangled begins to untangle itself. Love does not demand perfection to exist. It thrives even in imperfection because its nature is to bring wholeness where there is fracture. Fear rejects imperfection. Judgment punishes it. But love embraces it, not to justify but to transform. A wound wrapped in love does not stay a wound for long. It softens, opens, and begins to close. Love does not rush healing. It holds space for it. And that holding is often more powerful than any forceful attempt to fix. In the presence of love, defenses lower. Even the most guarded hearts recognize it, for it speaks a language older than pain. Love does not argue with fear, it disarms it. It does not demand trust, it invites it. Its power lies not in noise, but in quiet consistency. While fear and anger burn quickly and fade, love burns steady and does not flicker in the wind. This steadiness creates harmony wherever it stands. Love harmonizes not only people but also the energy within an individual. It gathers the scattered pieces of the mind, the fragments of the heart, and the restless corners of the soul into one center. It quiets the inner storm not by suppressing it, but by being larger than it. When the soul remembers love, fear loses authority. Thoughts settle, emotions soften, breath deepens, and the world outside begins to reflect that inner stillness. When love is withheld, the world grows cold. People cling to defense, suspicion, and distance. But when love flows freely, even the roughest edges begin to smooth. This is not sentimentality, it is law. Love is the great equalizer. It speaks to what is true in everyone, beneath the armor, beneath the story, beneath the pain. It is the key that fits every lock, not because it forces doors open, but because it was never meant to be shut out. Love harmonizes power. Power without love becomes domination, but power with love becomes guidance. It harmonizes respect. Respect without love can turn into pride, but respect with love becomes honor. It harmonizes wealth. Money without love becomes greed, but money with love becomes abundance shared. Every element of life, when touched by love, aligns with something greater than itself. Love gives everything its true form. Love has no need to compete. It has no opposite that can destroy it. Fear is not its equal. Fear is its absence. Hatred is not its rival. It is love forgotten. And what has been forgotten can be remembered. Love does not strike at enemies. It makes enemies unnecessary. It does not conquer through force. It dissolves the need for the battle. Its victory is quiet but absolute. The soul filled with love sees differently. It looks at a broken situation and sees where the light can enter. It looks at a person in pain and sees the untouched wholeness behind the pain. It looks at a closed door and knows there is another way. This vision harmonizes because it refuses to feed discord. It chooses to feed what is whole, even in the middle of what seems fractured. Love is not always soft in form. but it is always steady in essence. Sometimes it speaks gently, sometimes firmly, sometimes silently, but in every form its intention is harmony. It does not speak to prove, it speaks to align. It does not correct to dominate, it corrects to heal. Its firmness is not rooted in pride, but in truth, and truth wrapped in love can enter where force cannot. Love harmonizes time. Where fear rushes, love is patient. Where doubt delays, love moves steadily. It does not panic at delay, nor does it give up when things seem still. It trusts the rhythm of the unseen. Its patience is not weakness but wisdom, for it knows harmony is not built in haste. When love fills a person, it spills into everything they touch. Their words carry warmth. Their silence carries presence. Their actions weave connections instead of cutting ties. People feel safer, calmer, more themselves in the orbit of such a presence. It is not that the person is extraordinary, it is that love speaks through them without obstruction. Love harmonizes even the relationship between the self and the world. It quiets the urge to fight everything outside, replacing it with a knowing that there is no separation. When the soul sees itself in all things, judgment loses its power. The lines drawn between me and them begin to fade, not in weakness, but in clarity. Love does not erase individuality, it weaves it into a greater whole. The greatest harmonies are born not from perfection, but from love holding imperfection with grace. It does not need everything to be right to flow. It flows to make things right. It is the thread that turns discord into music, fracture into form, storm into stillness. Those who carry it become instruments of quiet change. Love does not fear distance, darkness, or delay. It reaches without rushing. It waits without weakening. It remains steady even when everything else trembles. In its presence, fear begins to dissolve, chaos begins to quiet, and harmony begins to rise. This is its nature. Love harmonizes all things because nothing stands outside its reach. It does not choose what to heal, it simply flows, and what it touches finds its way back to wholeness. Friends are reflections of vibration every soul carries. A frequency, an unseen tone that speaks louder than words. This tone is what draws certain people closer and quietly lets others drift away. Friends are never accidents. They are mirrors held up by the universe, showing back what lives within. When someone grows, the mirror shifts. When the inner frequency rises or falls, the circle around them begins to change in response. Friendship is not built only on shared experiences, but on silent resonance. Two souls meet not just in time and place, but in vibration. Every thought, belief, and emotion emits a signal. People who share similar signals recognize each other instinctively. There is a sense of ease, an unspoken understanding, a natural alignment. No amount of pretending can create true friendship where the vibration does not match. People may stand in the same room, speak the same language, even share the same history, but without resonance, the bond remains thin. On the other hand, when vibrations meet, even silence feels full. Friends mirror what someone carries inside. If the inner world is filled with self-respect, abundance, and peace, the friends that appear will reflect those qualities. They will uplift, not drain. They will grow with, not against. If the inner world is filled with fear, doubt, or self-neglect, the friendships that form may reflect those shadows, not as punishment, but as a reflection waiting to be recognized. The quality of friendships often reveals the vibration one is holding more clearly than the words one speaks. Friendship is energy meeting energy. Those who carry light attract others who carry light. Those who walk in heaviness find others who share that same weight. This is why some bonds feel effortless and others require constant struggle. The bond that is born from alignment does not need constant convincing to stay alive. It moves naturally, like water flowing in its channel. The bond born from misalignment demands energy, negotiation, compromise, that drains rather than builds. As a person evolves, their vibration changes, and so does their circle. Some friends who once felt like home may begin to drift, not because of conflict, but because the mirror no longer reflects the same image. The connection that once fit like a key in a lock may no longer turn. This is not loss, it is movement. As the inner frequency rises, new mirrors appear, new friends whose presence matches the new tone. True friendship is not possession, it is resonance. It does not need to be held tightly because it is held naturally by alignment. When two vibrations match, distance cannot weaken the bond, silence cannot break it, and time cannot erase it. It stands steady because it does not rely on constant proof. It simply exists, like two notes in harmony, ringing clear even when far apart. Friends often reveal truths about oneself that words cannot. They are like quiet teachers, not always through their actions, but through what their presence stirs within. The friend who inspires growth is a mirror of untapped strength. The friend who challenges is a mirror of what still needs healing. The friend who understands without explanation is a mirror of shared frequency. Every bond carries a reflection, and those reflections are invitations to see more clearly what lives within. When someone holds their worth, they no longer accept friendships that diminish them. Their vibration naturally repels those who seek to take without giving. There is no need for loud confrontations or explanations. The energy itself creates distance where alignment no longer exists. Likewise, when someone is lost in self-doubt, they may find themselves surrounded by those who mirror that same uncertainty. Shifting the inner tone shifts the outer company. Friendship built on vibration has a rhythm. It does not demand constant performance. It breathes easily, expands without fear, contracts without resentment. It allows space. It trusts silence. It grows stronger through understanding rather than endless proving. This rhythm is what makes certain friendships last across years and miles, even when life changes everything else. The vibration remains steady and the bond flows with it. Friends also reflect the season a soul is in. Some arrive as mirrors of lessons, others as mirrors of joy. Some come to build bridges, others to close chapters. Not every friend is meant to stay forever, and not every bond fades because it failed. Sometimes the reflection is complete, the lesson is learned, and the vibration moves to a new frequency. Understanding this brings peace where once there was attachment. When one's vibration is centered in love, respect, and clarity, the friendships that grow from that space are luminous. They do not feed on insecurity or competition. They do not thrive on drama or constant proof. They are easy, nourishing, steady. They celebrate rather than compare, support rather than drain, and grow rather than hold back. These friendships are not many, but they are true. They are rare not because love is rare, but because clarity is rare. To cultivate better friendships, one must first cultivate the vibration that attracts them. Chasing people does not create true connection. Becoming aligned with one's own truth does. When someone stands firmly in who they are, without fear or pretense, they become a clear tone in the world. Those who match that tone find their way effortlessly. This is why the strongest friendships often form in silence, without force or strategy. Friendship is not a transaction, it is a reflection. The energy given is the energy received. If someone offers honesty, openness, and kindness, they tend to attract the same. If they carry fear of betrayal, they often find mirrors that challenge that fear. The universe listens more to vibration than words. What someone claims to want may not match what their energy actually calls in. Shifting the inner call changes who answers. Friends reveal growth. The ones who match your higher vibration show how far you've risen. The ones who fall away show where the frequency once was. There is no bitterness in this understanding, only clarity. Every friend along the way was a reflection of a chapter, a tone, a vibration. Some mirrors were soft, some were sharp, but all were honest. Friendships that arise from alignment create harmony around them. They strengthen purpose, sharpen vision, and calm storms. They do not add noise to life, but bring music, They do not demand constant fixing because they are born from a shared note. When two souls carry similar frequencies, their presence together amplifies what each already holds. It is like two flames that do not steal from each other but burn brighter side by side. A soul that knows its worth no longer fears being alone because it understands that the right mirrors will always arrive at the right time. Loneliness comes when one seeks mirrors in misaligned places. Peace comes when one stands in their vibration and lets alignment do the choosing. Real friends do not need to be chased or convinced. They are drawn by resonance. This is why forcing friendships never creates harmony. When two frequencies do not match, the bond may exist in form, but not in depth. It feels like pushing two notes together that do not belong in the same chord. There is friction, confusion, misalignment, and no amount of effort can replace the ease that comes from true resonance. Friends are reflections of vibration, and because vibration is fluid, friendships are living things. They grow, change, evolve, shift. When someone rises in their own frequency, their circle often becomes smaller but clearer, fewer mirrors but brighter ones. Less noise, more music. This is not isolation but refinement. The most powerful friendships are not those that simply stand the test of time, but those that continue to resonate through every transformation. When vibration changes and the bond remains, it means both souls have chosen growth together. They are no longer just mirrors. They are instruments playing in the same symphony, weaving their tones into something greater than either alone. Every friend is a reflection, every circle a map of vibration. When the inner tone is clear, the outer world echoes it. There is no confusion about who belongs and who does not. The vibration does the choosing. It draws, it repels, it aligns, it harmonizes. True friendship begins not with finding the right people, but with becoming the right frequency. When that happens, reflection is inevitable.